Are you in the market for your next 22 long rifle precision optic? Then stop right now. Don't buy anything till you watch this video. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Accuracy. I'm Josh, and I wanted to put this information out because this is a question I get all the time. Get a ton of questions about optics and precision 22 long rifles. So there's all sorts of standards and sayings out there like, if you buy a rifle, you should buy a scope that's just as expensive as your rifle, or you should buy a scope that's more expensive than the rifle, or you should spend half what you spend on the rifle on the scope, or vice versa. It's all over the place, and I'm going to tell you, it's all total BS. It doesn't matter what you spend on the rifle. It matters what you want to do with your optic and what you need out of it. So let's break this down as easily as I can. Here I have a Nikon Pro Staff Rimfire. This is about $100 scope. Now, this is a fixed parallax scope. You can't adjust parallax on this to get like clarification at further distances. This is not something you put on a precision 22 long rifle. And you've got to really watch out when they market a scope and they call it a Rimfire or a 22 long rifle scope. All that means is they put a BDC in there, which is a bullet drop compensating reticle, which is supposed to give you holds at different distances. Now, the manufacturer of the scope is going to tell you what that is, but it's all crap. It doesn't mean anything because the difference between ammunition velocity is crazy. Usually they're going to market it towards like a hunting higher velocity round, but you can go all the way from 700 feet per second up to like 1300 feet per second on 22 long rifle. And that BDC is probably not going to line up for you. So what a lot of people do is buy this scope, bolt it up, zero it at 25, then at 50 they hold it on that first BDC mark, and guess what? They miss a squirrel or rabbit or whatever, or even worse, they shoot the jaw off of something when they're trying to make a clean headshot. They're just garbage. Don't use them unless you're willing to put the time and actually figure out the holds. And if you're gonna do all that, you might as well do it with the turret. For a hunting scope, something in that $100 price range is okay. Now, the fact that it's rated for rimfire doesn't mean anything besides that BDC reticle we talked about, because let's just face it, if the scope is built for a 22 and they're marketing for that, usually what that means is it's a cheap scope that can't handle impacts or recoil, and you don't want that. This scope can't handle the recoil of a 6.5 or something like that. What happens when you drop your rifle? You can't trust it. So I just say stay clear of the 22 rimfire marketed scopes unless you're going after a really reputable brand and it has really good reviews. So hunting scope, something like this, that's okay. But let's get into the meat of the matter here. What we need to determine is how far you're going to shoot, what you need for magnification, what style reticle and turrets you want. So if you are a target bench rest shooter, you need a lot of magnification and a fine reticle. And when I mean a lot, you need 30 plus to be competitive. So you really need to get very precise holds. You're also going to need turrets. A lot of them guys are going to go MOA because it's a finer adjustment than mil radiant. So you'll see a lot of guys in the 30 to 50 kind of magnification. You're going to see it be second focal plane, and you're gonna see it be an MOA and usually 1/8 inch clicks so that they can get that really nice fine zero. Now, take that same scope and try and use that for PRS and you are gonna struggle. So if you need to shoot multiple targets and make multiple engagements at different distances and you need to know holds and things like that, first focal plane is the way to go. Now, when we're talking second focal plane and first focal plane, let's just describe it like this. A first focal plane optic, the reticle stays true to the image. So when you zoom out, the reticle gets smaller in relation to the image. When you zoom in, the reticle gets bigger. Now that's very good for holds and dialing and doing things where you need to shoot at multiple distances. What it's not good at is having a very fine reticle on max magnification, because the reticle is going to be quite large because they have to make it big enough to be usable at low magnification, and oftentimes at full magnification it's going to be quite cumbersome and it's not going to be a good bench rest style scope. Now, there is just features on features on features on features on features on scopes, but what I like to do is talk about what reticle, and that's where we talk second focal plane, first focal plane, we need to talk about what distance you're shooting to determine what magnification level you need. But another thing that goes kind of unforgotten is internal adjustment. Now, when you look at this scope, this is a 1-inch tube. This has not much internal adjustment, and for a hunting scope on a 22 long rifle, that's fine, because you could probably dial out to about maybe 150 or so yards with this and still be able to hit. That would get you out there kind of in that neighborhood, which would be fun. Shooting squirrels, busting soda cans, nothing wrong with that. When you step up from there, you go to something like this Helos BTR Gen 2. This has a 30 millimeter tube. This is going to give you a lot more adjustment. So you're probably going to get 300 to 400 yards out of something like this, because this tube needs to be bigger to get more adjustment. And I'm kind of oversimplifying this, guys. I am by no means a scope professional. I just use a lot of scopes, and I wanted to make a video that everyday people could understand when they're looking for something. So 30 millimeter tube, a lot more internal adjustment. It's also going to have a bigger objective. As you can see here, this was a 40 millimeter. This is a 50 millimeter, so you're gathering more light. The bigger this objective is, the more light that the scope can gather. And then when we step up yet again, we go to 34 millimeter tube. Now this is what you're gonna see most often on like PRS and NRL style precision rimfires. This is gonna give you the most adjustment. It's usually gonna have a 56 millimeter objective like this one here. You're gonna gather tons of light, and you're gonna have lots of adjustment. You're usually, when you get up around the 30 or 34 millimeter tubes, you're gonna start seeing bigger turrets that are more tactile and more purpose built for something like the PRS or NRL 22 game. Do not get wrapped up in features. You can find scopes in every price range in the base kind of scope model that you need that's gonna have different features. Some are gonna have illuminated reticles. Some are gonna have lockable turrets. For you, that may or may not be a thing. Now, having a lockable windage turret can help, but I can quite honestly say on the ones that I have that don't lock, I've never had a problem with accidentally spinning my turrets. I kind of always looking at my turrets anyway, but they're pretty hard to accidentally just spin them. If you've done that, you've probably dropped a rifle or something, and it's time to check all your equipment again anyways. Like I said, I'm not trying to get super long-winded, but let's wrap it up with this. Avoid marketing scams that are like 22 rimfire. If you're looking for a hunting scope, something 4 to 12 or even less magnification is fine. You won't need a ton of internal travel or things like that, but things that I would look for even for a hunting scope would be adjustable turrets that you can spin with your hand, not with a coin. Avoid the BDC reticle and just do your homework. If you plan on shooting from 25 to 75 yards, zero at 25, go to 50, write down what your elevation is on your turret to get you zeroed at 50. Go to 75, same thing, write that down, and then you have reference points. You don't have to guess. If you're looking at a squirrel, he's 50 yards away, you know exactly what to take your elevation to make a clean and humane shot on that animal without all this BDC reticle crap, because honestly, that's what I think it is. It's just crap. Unless you can adjust where they are, I'm sorry, crap. Now, as you go and you step up, and maybe you're looking for something for either bench rest or PRS, if you're going bench rest, you're probably going to want second focal plane, high magnification, and you're going to also want 1/8 inch and probably MOA, because you're not going to be moving the reticle up and down a lot elevation wise. You're really shooting at one distance, so you want a fine reticle, fine adjustment, and you're going to want high magnification. So that second focal plane is going to get you there for bench rest. Now for PRS or NRL 22 and things like that, I would really steer you towards something like this or this, where you are looking at a mil radiant. It's just much easier to reference those when you're dialing, because your dope's going to be 3.5 and not 3 3/4 or 6 1/4. It's 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. Very easy to do. You're also going to get a first focal plane, which is going to allow you to be able to use holdovers and dial at any magnification level. And you're usually going to get a really nice kind of tactical setup scope when you start looking at scopes in that area. A lot of what you're going to hear is, it's just a 22. It's just a 22. Why do you have that scope on a 22? Well, the fact of the matter is, when you're shooting a bigger caliber rifle, you have a bigger projectile in the air. It's going to have a bigger amount of trace, and it's going to be way easier to spot your impacts or misses, because it's going to displace things a whole lot more on the target. 22, you're talking about a 40 grain projectile going around 1,000 feet per second through the air. It doesn't have hardly any trace. It's a tiny bullet, and when it hits something, especially if it's a miss, it's very hard to see. So I would argue the point that you need a better optic on your 22 long rifle precision gun than you do on your centerfire gun counterpart. Because when you're shooting, and especially for the PRS NRL 22 guys, I say this till I'm blue in the face, if you can't spot your miss, then you are just dead in the water. Think about shooting a stage where you got 10 targets and 10 rounds. One of you has much better glass, way higher resolution. One of you is using this, $1,000, $1,100 scope. One of you using a $400, $500, $600 scope. And we both miss on our second shot. The guy with that better glass has way more likelihood of seeing where that bullet was going and where it missed, and can make that adjustment and re-engage the target and get a hit. The guy with the cheaper glass that doesn't have very good resolution and can't pick up things that great, he's more likely to miss that and not see that, not be able to correct, and miss subsequent follow-on shots. So yes, I know this is probably ridiculous to most people, but that's why you see a ton of high dollar optics on 22 long rifles for precision rimfires. Those guys understand that, because once you get out there and shoot it, you'll learn that very fast. So I hope we made some good points. I hope that this steers you in the right direction. Figure out a budget, figure out a use case, find an optic that's gonna fit those needs, and buy as much scope as you can in your budget. Now, like I said, I don't get any money off this. Whether you buy this Nikon rimfire or whether you buy this Athlon Aries ETR, it puts no money in my pocket either way, but I can tell you right now, you're gonna be a lot happier with this than that. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Try and do some more videos like this. Thank you for all your support. We'll catch you on the next one.